Hey everyone, welcome to another show of Ion Icon. Today we break down the latest news that has happened across the Icon ecosystem. And with me, as always, is Icongrapher. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, good, good. I haven't actually pre-show routine. I did not check what was going on with the price. What are you? Do you know what's going on?
Well, it's certainly not as high as it was around the last time we recorded one of these. When I didn't mean to predict a $3 uh, price point, but it ended up hitting that and going over. We're subsequently down, and I think a lot of people hope when the Polkadot announcement came out, and we'll get into that a bit later. I think some people were hoping that the price would do a bit more, but I think at that point we were already kind of trending downward. So just even the news wasn't enough to push us up a whole lot. But I think it's one of those things where we went up from $2 to 320 or something like that in just a few days. So to expect that to not have some sort of pullback and some folks to take profit, I think would be a bit unreasonable. So as far as I see it, I wish it would only go up forever. But again, it's just another sign of a healthier market. And these kind of gradual, two steps forward, one step back, two steps forward, one step back movements, as far as I know, I think it lessens the odds that you have some crazy run where it goes up really quick and then it crashes really quick, just in almost kind of what happened in 2017, 2018. So as much as we'd like to see it go up really quick, I think the more the more the more stable and the more gradual price increases are much better long term.
Look, agree. And you know what? We saw a huge leap in price before the news broke. When the news broke, you kind of settled. It kind of settled. And what's going on at the moment is just natural. Like, I don't know too much about trading, but if you just look at the dailies, you can see that for like 5 days we had solid green candles, and right now we're just in a real healthy correction stage. Hasn't broken the 61 fibs, or it's bounced off the 51 nicely. So far so good. Again, full disclaimer, not a pro trader here, just some basic stuff. So just looking at that, it looked fairly healthy. But we're in a good spot, We're I just recall a few weeks back we were just talking about the kryptonite that was $2. So it's just good to be here.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's dive in. We've got a lot of news to cover as always. First off the list, Icongrapher, what have you got for us?
So this is a project that Icon Nation has been working on for quite a while now, kind of behind the scenes. It wasn't super well publicized for good, on purpose. It's called ICONSAFE. It's what's called a multi-signature wallet. For those who aren't aware of what that is, it is basically usually typical wallets, all it takes is one set of private keys. The private keys access the wallet and can sign a transaction, do whatever that one individual wants to do. A multi-sig wallet requires multiple people to sign off. So you can have it where, okay, we have four addresses that are connected to this wallet, and all four of them need to sign off in order to send a transaction. Or, we have five, and as long as three people sign off, you're good to go. In that way, in case someone's, unavailable at the time, or, something happens to those private keys, you're not totally locked out of that wallet. You can kind of set it up as you wish. So it's really helpful, especially as you see, there's a lot of P reps now. There's a lot of groups kind of handling different wallets and things like that. So to have the ability to have multiple people with control over wallets, in a trustless manner, I think it really helps a lot of these teams kind of better utilize their resources. And they don't have to. You don't have to worry about working with someone and then all of a sudden you wake up one day and they've run away with all the funds, just because again it requires a secondary, if not more, forms of validation in order to get that done. The interface itself, I haven't tried it yet, but I have watched the demo video. I've also just taken a bit of a look at it. Looks super easy to use. It's really slick looking. Does a good job of tracking all the different assets that are in the portfolio, or in the wallet. I'm sorry. And so seems like a really helpful product. I don't think every iconist is necessarily going to find a use for it, but it is just another one of those tools that I think a lot of teams, businesses, groups, a lot of others will find super helpful. So a really nice development, and Icon Nation's done a really good job on that.
Look, agree. This is probably a critical piece that we need, and I was actually a little bit surprised we didn't have it already. So it was great to see this being released. As projects become more decentralized, some of the first things they ask for is these multi-sig wallets to ensure, and the right people have authority over it, so that funds are safe. It's something that you see if you compare Ethereum, across the REN protocol. This is a big pain point to ensure that currently the REN protocol is what tokenizes BTC in a trustless manner on Ethereum. However, it's all held in one wallet at the moment, and part of that process is ensuring there's multi-sig, so no one individual can just run off with all that BTC that's locked in there, etc. Now, I'm oversimplifying this, but to help give you context, this is where these multi-sig wallets come in. It to approve any withdrawals or anything, it needs multiple parties to authorize it, kind of like a very scaled down version of blockchain. So it's really good that we have it there and part of our ecosystem now. Next
Absolutely.
up, we have metrics. So I saw us on Twitter. There was a screenshot of the new version that's being built, and it's looking really great. Refreshed interface. There's a lot of cool features being worked on it now. I'm gonna let it out of the bag. I have actually gotten sneak peeks and testing the revisions that are coming through of the next version, and I have to say it's looking fantastic. It populates a lot of information you want to see, especially now that we are starting to see a bit of a booming DApp ecosystem on Icon. So it aggregates all those recent transactions that are happening in your wallet, where your dividends are coming from, etc. And it's shaping up to be a huge improvement over the first, over the current version that's out there, and it just looks slick. And I'm really excited about this app as a whole because it's going to enable so much across the Icon ecosystem. It's going to aggregate all that information or dApps that are out there and present it to you in your fingertips. So it's that one-stop solution kind of deal. So it was great to see a screenshot of how it's coming along, and in the back end, I can honestly say it's really shaping up to be a great update.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of grown along with the ecosystem as a whole. When Andrew first worked on it and built it, it was basically, how many ICX do you have in your wallet and how much you're earning rewards on staking.
Mm.
And that was kind of it, because that's really all that there really was to look into. But obviously over time, we've added a lot more tokens to the ecosystem, a lot more different transactions are going through, a lot more, passive incomes coming into wallets as a result of these tokens. So of course, it only makes sense that the app would scale along with the ecosystem, and I think that'll be a trend that continues, especially as far as the app got given a grant for this development, so it's already nice to see some good progress on this, especially on the user interface front. So I think it's something that every iconist enjoys and use, or not say every, but everyone who's heard of it certainly. And so to see it keep going is a nice thing to see.
Look, on that note, I'm going to use this show here, Icongrapher. I've been trying to get a hold of some of the team in the Unify side, the Unify protocol. If anyone is on the team that's listening to this show, could you please reach out to myself on Twitter, on Telegram? We're really keen to talk about some integrations around this app and get some conversation started. So, yeah, just I've used every channel available, and I thought, why not use this? But it's good for the end user, so really excited and hope to hear something back from that team.
Another little bit of positive news. There were actually 2 exchange listings that were announced this past, I guess, a little more than a week. One of them, I guess the biggest one, is Coin One, which is either currently is or is around the 3rd largest Korean exchange for cryptocurrency. And it is, there was the announcement, which was positive. Anytime ICX gets listed on a new exchange, and especially one where in it's kind of its home market, it's certainly a positive thing on its own. But Min had kind of hinted that this one was extra special for a reason. With a bit more context on that is that if you've listened to past episodes, you're aware of something, I guess, a consortium called the Daylight Financial Group, which is essentially a financial, like I said, consortium, and they're responsible essentially for the establishment of Icon Loop. It was in response to a lot of their clients asking for private blockchain and potentially public blockchain services, which is how Icon came about. That consortium, the Daylight Financial Group, they've actually changed their name relatively recently. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but nonetheless, they had ownership of Coin One. So there's a bit of a an indirect connection there with Icon Loop and Icon itself. I imagine that Min himself probably, due to his previous and potentially ongoing relationship with the Daylight Financial Group, has potentially a bit of, I don't know if it's inside knowledge or at least certainly a more special connection with Coin One than he would with other exchanges. So he hinted at some kind of follow up news coming along at some point in time. So that will certainly be exciting. But that was the immediate link I kind of saw. The other exchange is called Toko Crypto. It's a little bit hard to find some information on that. You go to CoinGecko and there isn't really a whole much on this exchange. It does appear to be relatively new. It is based in Indonesia, and it has the backing of Binance. So it seems like to a certain extent, Binance is taking a bit of a franchise model and creating some subsidiary exchanges and trying to expand into new markets. I don't know how well the Indonesian market is currently saturated as far as crypto exchanges are concerned, but I imagine this is kind of a big first step into there. And so Icon has been listed on there. ICX has, and so it'll certainly be nice that just access to a whole nother market, an Asian market at that too. So again, nothing totally earth shattering, but all these little bits and pieces, they start to add up over time.
Yeah, look, more exchanges, more ways to acquire ICX. That's always good. So this next one is probably not all good news. A bit of sad news. So Weeblock, they have posted their closure now. I don't. I didn't know much around this, but for very brief, they were one of the ICOs, initial ICOs that kicked off when Icon launched, and obviously at that time ICOs were all the rage. This particular project, they were located in South Korea. Obviously, they were trying to ensure they follow all the regulations possible. It turned out, in the end, they had to close due to just the regulatory nature of the environment, and so they've had to close shop. So it's a bit sad if some people had invested in it. Essentially, there's those tokens are worthless and can't be used for anything now. So a bit of a sad note, but these things do happen. They're rife in the crypto world. At least there was formal communications with the team. You can see all the effort they tried to push through, but unfortunately didn't work out. Now, one thing I did notice, and this was cool to see, Spartan Node had been quite vocal in their chat, and they've created a form, so if you were a holder, to go register. They don't know what they could do there to try and help anyone who's been impacted by this. So if you're not aware, I would jump on their Telegram and look at some of their pinned posts to get what they're trying to do. I believe they've created a Google form where you can put in your details and if you were an investor in this ICO. So just thought to really call that out. Any thoughts on that, Iconographer?
Yeah, no, Weeblock is kind of one of the original, I wouldn't say teams, but certainly organizations, applications, projects that was working closely with Icon and on the Icon chain. It's certainly not the first one that's kind of run out of steam or run into issues, and unfortunately wasn't able to continue. Whether businesses in general, not, to think that there's a 100% success rate in starting a business, I think everyone knows that's not the case. I think that's even more so true in crypto, where there's so many more uncertainties and potential issues that could pop up, whether it's just dealing with the technology, whether it's dealing, in this case, obviously with the regulatory environment, or a number of other things. So this is bound to happen. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate in the whenever we're in the realm of innovation, as we certainly are in crypto, not everything's going to turn out to be a home run. So, it's certainly not positive news, but it's not some, major catastrophic news that's, going to be super problematic for Icon. And I hope that the folks who were part of Weeblock and, were working on the various projects they were working on stick around in some way, shape, or form and continue to contribute to Icon. But totally understandable if they, take a different perspective in life and maybe, who knows if they want to stick to crypto or move on to new things, but hopefully to see them stick around one way or another.
Yeah, agree. Really hope they stick around and start something new or join some of the existing DApp ecosystems being built out on Icon. Agree. We don't want to lose that. Next bit, NFT Bazaar. So we've been keeping everyone updated on this. It's the one coming out from Spartan Node. So where the NFT generator slash and market being built by Spartan Mode is in beta testing at the moment. We hope, we have heard that there's plans close to the middle of April for it to go live. We're going to have them on the show hopefully next week. So we'll really dig deep and ask a lot of questions around the NFT Bazaar and how everything's going to work, and hopefully get a launch date out of them in that episode. But that's really cool to see. We know they've been iterating on this extremely quickly. They've gotten, a few devs on board. If you haven't already, do listen to the podcast Corey had with them on the show. There was a lot of insights as to how quickly they've been able to move on this DApp. What are your thoughts, Iconographer?
Yeah, no, it'll be really nice to, I think we've been waiting for some sort of NFT mechanism for a while. I think there's a lot of pent up ideas and pent up projects that people want to experiment with and launch, and hopefully potentially make some money off of. And so to have one available pretty soon, along with Craft, which we're also eagerly awaiting, it's just another step in a nice step in the right direction as far as the Icon ecosystem is concerned. And I'm certainly excited to play around with it and try it out and see what ideas might pop out. Another piece of news, it's the end of another month, so we got another Icon development update. There were a couple different items in there. There was reference to the BTP working group. We'll get into that a little bit later. But kind of the other two were a hotfix was released. As some people know, there was a bit of an issue with the Icon network 3 weeks ago. It was down for a little bit. It was a little bit hard to tell why. What ended up happening is there was someone was spamming the network with a whole lot of unnecessary transactions and slowing it down. So what they've done is they've implemented a fix that will basically create a feature that allows I don't know if it's the network itself, but at least potentially an application to block the creation of a transaction for a certain period if that same address repeatedly creates transactions that exceed a given threshold. So if something's trying to create 100,000 transactions a minute just to slow down the network, this new feature will essentially shut that down. I don't know if the number is 100,000 or something less. Obviously, if we're out there creating, we want dApps to be creating a lot of transactions. Obviously, IconBet, for instance, can create tens, if not hundreds of thousands of transactions a day. But I assume they're nowhere near that threshold that creates that spam and creates that problem. So I'm sure they're implementing it, in a balanced way. So that's certainly nice to see. The other one is they've developed a new test net called the Hanum Test Net. This, I presume, is a more reliable version of one. There was I believe it's pronounced UDO test net, which has been kind of in existence as far as I can remember. There were some issues where it would go down for hours, or I don't know if it was days, but certainly lengthy periods of time, which made it hard for Icon developers who they wanted to test something out, and they would go into the test net and it wouldn't be running, and they'd have to kind of wait until it started running again. So this is kind of the new version, should hopefully resolve a lot of those issues and just create another nice little tool for developers to utilize as we have more and more and more testing out different applications, dApps, everything else on the network itself.
Because we don't want to test and prod, do we?
Nope.
No, look, it's really good to see this because it goes hand in hand with everything Icon has been preaching. And by preaching, I mean, we got the security audit fund along to complement CPS, and obviously that security audit fund is to ensure the dApps that are being created, especially around DeFi, have gone through the correct auditing processes, and to ensure those auditing processes and it's money well spent. For example, it is great to have this stuff go through testnet and all the testing that's required as well. So it's great to see. And I know from history, the testnet side of the Icon ecosystem has needed a bit of love and attention. So it's really good to see the ongoing push for that. The next bit is very dev focused, and I am not going to pretend to know what I'm talking about here, but I felt that there was a bit of work done on this piece, and for all the devs across the Icon ecosystem that listen to the show, and I wanted to call it out to ensure it doesn't get missed. So Geometry Labs, they have created what they're calling the Icon streaming data platform, and it's a tool set, and I'll just read a blurb here. With this set of tools, developers are able to work with live copies of the blockchain and perform different types of queries and calculations that could normally that would normally be slow slash difficult if run directly against a blockchain node. So just to my takeaway from it is they're able to emulate various versions, create various versions, copies of the blockchain, and test anything and everything you wanted to create, which is a huge boom to the dev community and people who are building dApps or anything across the Icon ecosystem. So if you hadn't heard this, there'll be a link in the show notes. Really jump on. And for anyone else who's just curious and wants to read, give it a read. I took away stuff from it, but I couldn't really, reiterate what it's trying to say, because it was very much for the devs out there. So great to see this kind of stuff coming through as well. And again, it goes hand in hand with what I just called out earlier around the testnet and that testing side of it. Everything we can do to improve the Icon ecosystem that helps new builders come on board is fantastic.
Yeah, I've over the months, there's been little things I think, hey, it wouldn't be cool to do this sort of on-chain analytics of figuring out, some statistic about transactions, or figuring out some way to manipulate the data to kind of get a bit better of an understanding of what's happening on the Icon network itself. And the response I would get a lot from other, from developers I would kind of poke about this was that, it was a heavy resource load to try to pull that data from the chain itself. And so I think, there's kind of people circling around thinking, hey, wouldn't it be nice if there's a way to kind of feed in, or, pull into this data without necessarily doing all this work. So it's good to see that a team, or at least a organization company, stepped up and is kind of doing this work, and creating a much easier way for various teams to pull certain bits of data from the blockchain without having to go through a resource intensive process to do that. So again, you're not going to necessarily, not earth shattering news for the everyday iconist, but a nice little feature that's available that should add a little bit more value to the various dApps that might be utilizing it. Next piece is the Icon Asset Management team, which is one of the top P reps, which is another one that offers the reward sharing model. They have a bit unique one. I think a lot of people are already familiar with it, but if not, essentially what they're doing is they're creating what is, I guess you could say, kind of the equivalent of a mutual fund for Icon, where it's a basket of various tokens that is growing over time. It's fed in partly by the ICX rewards as a P rep, as well as there's generating some tap in there as well, and a few other tokens. And over time, they're going to grow it more. Obviously, staking will help grow it. And so it's just a chance to and each token represents a partial bit of ownership over the fund itself. And so over time, they're going to hopefully increase its value, both by adding tokens, but also with those tokens increasing in value. So it's a very interesting concept, and certainly one you should give a bit more of a look if you haven't already. But what they announced is that they are conducting a token sale of their token. So as of now, the only way to earn the IAM token is through voting for the IAM P rep, and you would automatically receive tokens via their reward sharing model. But they're kind of expanding their token distribution a little bit, and they are granting a private sale to all those who delegated to the Icon Asset Management P rep in March. That sale will include 500,000 IAM tokens, and it'll be eligible only to those who voted in March. And then I don't know if it's the same time or subsequent after that, there will be another sale. This will be a public sale open to the general public. This will only have 250,000 total IAM tokens in it. There is a cap, so each wallet is allowed to only purchase up to 2,000 IAM tokens. They're going to send each wallet a code, which presumably you'll use to redeem your token. The amount of it'll presumably give you access to the token sale itself. So the price per token is still to be determined, but what they have said that the private sale to prior supporters, that $500,000 IAM token block will be cheaper than the public sale. Kind of obvious as to why that would be. They're just trying to give a reward to those who have been, I guess you could say, early adopters of their platform and early adopters of their token. But certainly they're opening up to everyone to give everyone a chance. So nice little balance there. I think this is the first token sale, at least in recent history, of something that hasn't been ICX, of something that's on the Icon network. So kind of cool to see. Interested to see if other P reps follow suit. But just another little piece of innovation to a certain extent, and another piece of progress on the Icon ecosystem.
Yeah, look, love this. I've called it out. I just love the nature, how it's so unique. The sale is something exciting. It's while it is rewarding those early voters, it's also giving an opportunity for someone who hasn't voted at all to acquire around 250K of the IAM tokens. Keep in mind this particular batch came out of the locked up. If you look at the tokenomics, there's a large portion locked up by the team, which I know early on there were questions asked, well, why is so much being held by the team? And one of the things they always called out is it's not for us. We have plans to use that in other ways, whether it be for liquidity and cutting deals of various natures. But this is now, we see that 1 million of that's been taken to have this crowd sale, and reward some of the existing users. So that's great to see. I know they're working on a dashboard. Look, just even looking at the PREP, from what they started 1 month, it started with just the portfolio that's behind the IAM token, the fund, the index fund, the tokens that they're holding that bills that amount was 300,000 tap. They're already over 1 million tap. They're holding Seed, ICX, various other tokens across the Icon ecosystem, and that's the goal, right? Like their goal is to create a fund, but that revolves around the Icon ecosystem. Yes, they could venture out into ETH and use. And those are all great ideas as well, leverage on some of those great yield farming opportunities. But from conversations and the Telegram group chats, you can see that the real goal is to try and support everything that's being built on Icon. And there's a lot of new stuff coming. So rather than jumping and going across to different ecosystems, let's give the support that's needed to these projects building on Icon, which is great. So enough time there. One thing though, Icongrapher, I will call out. I know, as we've seen this LDX token from Spartan Node evolve and pivot from, burning, they have essentially that's what's needed to mint NFTs. They also have got their, they've called it the vending machine, and it's essentially you can send ICX and purchase at discounted rates LDX, the LDX token, and hold it in anticipation for the NFT Bazaar, etc., etc. So they've done their own unique take. We haven't really covered it. Shame on us, but but we'll get across it. But they've done a very different take on it. But in fairness, their product has been consistently evolving and changing as their team builds out, what they're trying to achieve. So we've been trying to keep up as well. But look, this is all great. It's like there's so many things happening on Icon now. There's so much to talk about. You can't be across it all. That's the stage we want to get to. We want to be, oh my god, we didn't know about this. We didn't know about that. That's great. This came out. I saw this the other day. A new node. A new PREP team that's called ICX Burners, and their sole purpose is that all the node rewards that comes through, they burn the ICX, keeping. I think the goal is to just keep the operational cost to run the node. Everything else gets burned, and they're starting to get a lot of votes. But again, this is cool, it's different, and this is something we talked about earlier in the show as well. We'll start to see the evolution of P-reps and ideas that teams start forming to start new P-rep teams. So this is a great one. Inflation has been something that's constantly spoken about, and a lot of work has been done to lower that inflation rate. Some would say we're still too high. There's plans again to keep lowering that, but the ultimate goal has been at the moment to redirect that inflation that's currently taking place on the Icon network to be more productive, to fund things to get built. Now this is a bit different because essentially it's taking whatever that PREP makes and burning it, so that that ICX just doesn't exist. And that's also good for the Icon ecosystem if we don't have a inflating supply. But so let's see where this goes. For them to really have a difference, they would have to have a huge amount of votes for it to really impact the inflation. Good on them. Look, they're picking up steam. They've got over 1 million votes in the last 48 hours, and they're climbing. Great to see. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's just, another form of innovation. It certainly creates some more competition among those other reward sharing groups, which will, require maybe them to think of other new ways to create value for their voters. This is, in this case, what their voters really value is a reduction in inflation. A lot of iconists might value that highly. Other iconists might value other things more highly. So it's both innovative in a sense that it kind of it's another option that to suit kind of the various needs that everyone has, and the various things that people believe that icon should be doing, or at least members of the icon community should be doing. So I'd be interested to see, hopefully they'll do some interesting data tracking, just a sense of, obviously, we'll be able to hopefully know how much they're burning, but also to what percent that might have reduced inflation. If it ends up being really, really small, maybe voters kind of say, okay, it's, maybe this isn't necessarily worth it. Or it's bigger than maybe we thought, in which case it gets even more popular. So certainly interested to see how this one plays out. Definitely outside the box thinking, and, just another cool thing to watch.
Look, and even in one of the comments, I saw someone say, "This is great. I would also love to see a variation where essentially node rewards are just going into kind of like the CPS fund." And this is interesting. CPS exists, but there can be variations of it. There is opportunities here, like creating a fund that funds on top. Who knows? But it'll. This is what I'm very excited to see. What keeps the evolution that keeps happening around this. Although I do know, I do feel, not know, I do feel when Icon 2.0 comes out, we will see a bit of a stall happen where obviously we need to. All the teams will need to assess what is happening there with the new tokenomics and things that transpire there. So that will be interesting as well, and something to keep an eye out for. Now, let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players, for the players. Okay, and in major news this week, we had the first announcement with the first ecosystem BTP would be working with, and that's Polkadot, and various parachains that are being built across that ecosystem. Icongrapher, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so for a little while now, it seems that Icon had kind of been building a bit more focus and attention on BTP for obvious reasons. It's kind of their cornerstone piece of technology. But we'd been, we always, for a while, had been kind of sitting, floating around. We all knew it was there, but kind of more attention's been being paid to it. More articles, announcements, things like that are coming out, and we all started to get a sense that it seemed like it was getting close to the point where we'd get a sense of which would be the first chain or ecosystem that we'd be connecting with. A lot of folks have been guessing Polkadot, and that ended up being the correct answer in this case. And so, just a bit more context. Polkadot was started. It feels like a new project just because their token didn't list or didn't get released until I think it was a few months ago, maybe a year or so ago. But what happened is they did an ICO back in during the last ICO boom, 2017, 2018. But so people would purchase the tokens, but the tokens didn't actually come out until much later on. So this created a bit of an illusion that when those tokens did get released and people noticed the price action on DOT, which is the Polkadot token, it's now number 4 in the total market cap. A lot of people thought, oh wow, this project's only been around for a few months. Why is it doing so much better? It offers the same type of interoperability features that Icon's trying to do. Are we getting beat to the punch here? Why are they doing it so much quicker than we are? All sorts of kind of FUD floating around there, concerns, whatever else it might be. But because the fact that they've been working just as long as Icon has, they just hadn't released their tokens until later on. But that being said, it is a project that had a lot of hype behind it, still has a lot of hype behind it. Gavin Wood, who is kind of, I guess you call it the CTO of Ethereum, super high up in that project, super involved, very sharp guy, very well connected. His involvement with the project, I think, has created a lot of buzz behind it. And obviously, just the promise of the project creating, interchain interoperability, the same thing Icon's trying to do, has been, that's helped a lot of buzz as well. And when Icon released the announcement, they said Icon was joining the Polkadot community there were some people who had kind of frustrations with the way that was presented. Some justified, I guess, some not. It's not. Polkadot's a bit unique in the sense that Polkadot itself does not operate necessarily in the same way Icon does, right? With Icon, you have a public chain that can interact with private chains, but at the same time, Icon itself is its own ecosystem that plenty of dApps, applications, DeFi products, everything else is being built on. So it's its own, kind of its own really true ecosystem just by itself, but with the added capability of having this BTP technology that allows it to connect to a bunch of other chains. Polkadot's different in the sense that, if you envision a wheel, in the center you have a hub, and then you have a bunch of spokes that connect to it, right? Polkadot in this case is the hub, but no, to say people are quote unquote building on Polkadot isn't quite the same as when you say people are building on Icon, because Polkadot itself doesn't necessarily have, the Polkadot quote unquote chain, if you want to call it, doesn't have dApps or anything like that. What it does have is an ability to connect what are called parachains. And parachains in the analogy are essentially the spokes on the wheel, right? So, you can see the value of Polkadot itself if it has this capability of connecting. I can't remember how many slots are on the parachains. I think it's between 20 or 30 or something like that. All these different, they're certainly, they're separate chains with the ability to connect to Polkadot and utilize the infrastructure and the security and all the other features that the kind of protocol, the Polkadot protocol has developed. So they work a little bit differently, but ultimately what Icon is doing with BTP, again, they're not connecting to Polkadot, they're connecting to some of these chains that will utilize the Polkadot infrastructure in order for their cross-chain operability and or just kind of to function as a whole. And so the chains that got the side chains, the parachains, and at this point they're parachain candidates, so they're not even technically officially on there. I think they're leading candidates, so I'm sure they'll get on there at some point. But the four are, it's called Akala, Moonbeam, Edgeware, and Plasm. So these four things, you should almost think of them as their own separate individual projects. They're all kind of up and coming. They're in their relatively newer stages, almost kind of where Icon was back in 2017. So they're emergent chains that will plan to utilize the Polkadot like I said, Polkadot infrastructure. And so, Icon's connecting with these. And so when you say, they're connecting or they're joining the Polkadot community, that is really the more accurate way to phrase it. Because again, it's not a partnership with Polkadot. It's not connecting to the Polkadot blockchain because that's, again, not quite how the architecture of Polkadot is set up. And so, there's others who I think have more correctly kind of said that, it's not necessarily us joining them. It's more them utilizing our BTP technology in order to access Icon's, cross-chain capabilities, which I think is more accurate. But at the same time, it gets hard to technically kind of word that, start a stuff in an announcement or tweet or whatever it might be. So I want to start by kind of clarifying, giving some context as far as understanding exactly what exactly is at play here. But I know Fez has done a lot of deep diving into these individual parachains himself, so I'll let him kind of explain what each one does and how it can provide that value for Icon.
That was a great overview. And, just diving straight in, Akala. So this is currently a DeFi parachain. And what they plan to do is mint a stablecoin called AUSD and essentially create a DeFi suite of functionality where they have inbuilt DEX, where you can earn interest. It's kind of like what MakerDAO has done on Ethereum, but it's kind of got all the pieces built into it. So if you take Balanced, for example, Balanced is where you can mint assets on Icon. On this particular one on Dot is more around an entire ecosystem around that stablecoin. So again, it's parachain, and this is what it is going to bring to the Dot ecosystem. Now with BTP, all of a sudden you could imagine things like, and again, this is just looking at what possibilities could be. Our stable assets, our stable coin BNUSD, or when BNBTC or BN Ethereum or whatever gets minted via Balanced, essentially could go on to that ecosystem and use their dexes, and a whole new range of users could get access to the assets that Icon mint, which is fantastic, and vice versa, right? This is great potential for everyone.
The way I kind of see it, call it, is it's almost like it's a blockchain, in this case again a parachain, almost specializing and developed just for the use of DeFi, and in this case in an interchain manner. It's kind of, when they built Ethereum, they built it in a manner that said, okay, you can use smart contracts. Eventually, people kind of figured out, oh, they started realizing you could create these DeFi products. And so it's not like, Ethereum was designed or built or developed with DeFi in mind. It just kind of happened to evolve over time. Whereas in this case, the call is being designed as a way to really, really specialize and just be kind of quote unquote a DeFi blockchain. Really, and not to say that it maybe potentially can't do other things, but that's really what they're focused on. That's the value they want to provide to the Polkadot ecosystem, and obviously having access to that provides a lot of value for Icon as well, for the reasons that Fez just delved into.
Exactly. And look, I forgot to mention, and I've just scrolled over, anyone listening to the YouTube version, I've got these sites on the screen at the moment, and I was just scrolling through, and it gives you a bit more context, and we'll have some links in the show notes as well that you can check out. So next one is Moonbeam. Now, what is Moonbeam? So I'll just read what I've taken out of the white paper here. So Moonbeam is a developer-oriented blockchain that strives to provide compatibility with the existing Ethereum developer toolchain and network. It does this by providing a full EVM implementation, a Web3 compatible API, and bridges that connect Moonbeam to existing Ethereum networks. I'll stop there. There's a bit more information, but you can see that this particular dApp or chain is all around creating dev-friendly tools for EVM, Ethereum Virtual Machines, dApps. Now, I don't need to really call out how this is such a big asset for Icon as well, because we know for a fact that this is one of the pieces that our chain is missing, the EVM functionality. Now, Scott has hinted at, when we had him on the show, that we're possibly using a Cosmos SDK to enable this in Icon 2.0, but via BTP, all of a sudden we're getting access. And again, this is a lot of speculation on my part as well, but this is what Moonbeam is about. We're getting access to that, and indirectly getting access to a lot of that ETH ecosystem that's been built out, and all the work that's being done there we could potentially have at our fingertips. Iconographer, what was your takeaway with this one? Or were you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you basically spelled it out pretty well. It's just a kind of I guess you could say, a side door potentially that gives the Icon ecosystem access to those Ethereum virtual network tools, and it's less kind of on its surface a little less exciting maybe than some of the other parachain integrations itself, like based on the fact that it's more developer focused, but it does give a nice suite of tools for kind of the BTP arsenal that's being built up.
And you can even see, so on the Moonbeam site, everything, it's all about Ethereum compatible environment. So that's what this enables, and it's so this is not necessarily a dApp or of that sort. It's more from the dev side, and it's great to see that everyone knows all that DeFi, all that activity kind of has been happening on Ethereum. So this enables to tap into all of that, which is great. So the next one we have is Edgeware. So now this one is an interesting one, because if you look through the announcement, you can see that they actually said that the dedication of the Edgeware team, they've completed we have completed the first phase of integration by merging the necessary contracts with the Polkadot EVM, and then a bit of techno babble. But at its core, what this protocol is a DAO in a sense, and just for the YouTube channel, scrolling through, it is essentially, where you can create or start a working group. You have your own identity, and you can access some of the funding as long as you're bringing kind of viable projects or functionality to the ecosystem. And this is what BTP, the working group, have done. They've worked in the Edgeware team in that community, identified that this is the value we can add via the BTP integration, and formed a group to get the work done here so that we are front and center when the dot ecosystem and everything starts to actually get onto mainnet. So this is one of the other call outs as well. A lot of the last three protocols we showed you, they're not, they're parachains. They're not mainnet. They haven't launched their mainnet yet. They've got their testnet versions, and this is the difference with how far ahead or well evolved the Icon ecosystem is. We've been running our mainnet for years now, and many dApps on there with a lot more coming. So what you'll tend to find is once all these ecosystems kick off, and we are connected to these chains, our dApps are the ones like, Icon Bet, the all balanced OMM, all the DeFi quality by then will be out, right, Iconographer, and and various other dApps will have a booming ecosystem, and we can all of a sudden just leverage on all of this, get onto these other side chains that we're connected with, and use those ecosystems. So this is a prime example of Edgeware that that's brought everyone together, received the funding, and helped build out what's needed so that when we launch, we can integrate with the various chains that have been announced. And the last one, so look, I won't spend much time with this, but it is interesting. So it's called Plasm, and it's a layer 2. So essentially, it's a layer 2 kind of parachain. It's using the roll-up tech that is being rolled out on Ethereum. They're currently working through for layer 2 to launch on Ethereum to help with the congestion and stuff like that. So what they've done is essentially created a parachain that's compatible on the Polkadot network, and they've got their own, rewards, governance, and everything that will operate on this ecosystem. But it's great to see that, again, through BTP, we would get full access to this and everything that gets built out on the ecosystem. And you can see, as you've probably seen on the channel as I'm scrolling through the sites, every bit of it, while it all connects into Polkadot and it's got all these names, always the first thing highlighted is Ethereum, because in some way, shape, or form, these parachains are enabling some kind of interoperability or composability with the Ethereum network. And there we are, Icon, already via BTP connected to these parachains, which will give us that instant access as well. So I'm really hoping it's helped paint that picture. It's not as much as a deep dive as I wanted to break down, but what I was hoping to really deliver out of this is a bit of context as to where these parachains are in the Polkadot ecosystem. And where they are is they've got a white paper, they've got some products now working on testnet, they're not on mainnet yet, versus where the Icon ecosystem is and what we are doing. And by the time these protocols are all ready to launch, Icon will just be ready to integrate. It won't be, okay, now they've launched, now we need another 6 months, 8 months to explore what's going on. No. We are working with the teams clearly, and are ahead of the game in terms of integrating our technology into their work.
And I think, the obviously this is big news for Icon for several reasons. One of them being, it's the first kind of major milestone as far as BTP spreading its wings to a certain extent, and really lining up some direct use cases and things like that. But as big of a deal as for Icon, the way I kind of see it and the way it's been kind of presented is that it's even potentially a bigger deal for some of these parachains as far as the impact on their ecosystems, in the sense that the BTP connections, it allows all those parachains, they have direct, they can directly interact with Icon. They can directly interact with each other, and part of that just might be based, through the Polkadot. They now have this capability of basically they can operate with each other through the Polkadot infrastructure or through potentially BTP. They can interact with Icon, but also more importantly, they can interact with any other network added to the BTP ecosystem.
Hmm.
So again, we've assumed now we kind of during the prediction stages of what project was going to be announced first as far as the first integration. Ethereum was thrown around, Dot was thrown around, Binance Smart Chain was thrown around, a few others were. And remember, Scott has said during that AMA a month or so ago that he wants to see Icon as the most interconnected blockchain out of all crypto projects by the end of 2021. So if that's a realistic projection, and again, I don't think Scott would say it unless he felt that it was. If you're one of these parachains that we've just kind of gone through here, and you have confidence that that's going to be the case, that's a lot of value for you, right? Because you're going to be able to utilize the BTP connection to have access to, if BTP is the key to being this, access to the most interconnected ecosystem in the blockchain industry, obviously that's a very, very, very valuable key to have. And so you can understand why this news might be a lot more valuable for those chains than it is necessarily for Icon, even though in this situation, it certainly helps both. But as far as I see it, it's just this will be the first of many announcements that we get. I kind of went into this. I think it was on our last episode, as far as just kind of
Hmm.
this is the start, not the end, right? So we're just going to get more and more of this news and just see how more and more of these BTP integrations play out. But obviously, each one's going to be bullish for us because it's just another use case of BTP. But if you're one of these parachains or one of these other networks that's working on connecting to BTP, it's also bullish for you too, right? Because now you have access to yet another blockchain that's now operating on BTP. So, that's where it gets a little tricky. Is it we're joining Polkadot, or is it that Polkadot is joining us? And to a certain extent, both are true. And it's just a matter of how it gets presented. And so, I think the way it got presented was perfectly fine. I think it easily communicated kind of what was going on, but you obviously have to do a bit of a deeper dig to get the full big picture as far as what exactly this announcement means and what this step is. Obviously, nothing's a done deal. It's not like there's any, as far as I know, contracts being signed or anything like that. But the B2B working group is set up, and they've been working on stuff for a long time now, to where it looks like it's pretty solid as far as potential integration is concerned. So again, I don't think I've seen any code being saying, okay, these are connected now or anything like that. But we're moving in that direction, and I'm pretty confident that it'll get done.
So let's paint this picture, okay, and let's change the narrative a little bit. Or imagine a shift in narrative. At the moment, we know Dot is all the rage, Polkadot. Okay, you've gotten a quick rundown, a very simplified rundown that all these things, these partnerships, new things connecting to the Dot ecosystem. Essentially, a lot of them are parachains, and they have their own unique, DeFi versus EVM compatibility, etc., etc. And here's Icon. At the moment, it's come along and gone, we're connecting here. We know for the Polkadot ecosystem, everything that connects to it, essentially they're interoperable because it's connected to the Polkadot ecosystem. Icon, at the start, nothing to do with Polkadot. Okay, doesn't rely on the Polkadot chain for finality, consensus, nothing. Comes along using obviously the interoperability picture that was always painted. Now we're connected to various parachains on the Polkadot ecosystem. Still, at the moment, this news kind of got clouded. Oh, yeah, this seems like, more positive for Dot. Perhaps at the moment it's sounding that way. But what starts to happen is all of a sudden we've got these integrations. And as you said, Icongrapher, we integrate with Cosmos, we integrate with Binance Smart Chain, we integrate with chains that currently have a lot of users and use cases that aren't on the Dot ecosystem. Now, where does the narrative go there? Where does it shift? What starts to happen here? It's no longer Dot and parachains. It's holy moly, there's Icon kind of giving you access to everything, and full access to Dot, and everything going on Dot, you're getting it via our chain. Everything going on Ethereum, getting it via our chain. Everything going on Binance Smart Chain, whatever that may be, you're getting it. The side chains that connect to ETH, all of a sudden BTP is enabling that. So again, I'm painting a big picture here, but But as iconographer, you were breaking it down. This is all I saw from your explanation. This is what I started seeing. That narrative is currently dot dot dot, but let these integrations come, and all of a sudden it will be Icon is enabling these chains that don't exist on the dot ecosystem, that don't exist on this ecosystem, etc., etc.
Yeah, people. I think people are going to wake up one day and look at, as much hype as has gone into Dot. I think they're going to wake up one day and realize that all the, in terms of the overall network effect and the overall number of connections that exist, Icon this whole time has actually been the kind of the bigger, potentially at that point when they wake up and see it, that Icon is actually the bigger player at that stage. And again, it's not a one size, or it's not, there's not a winner take all approach, right? It's not that there's going to be one interoperability chain. It's not there's going to be one Korean chain. I think a lot of people have that attitude where, oh no, there's another, this chain's in Korea and we're in Korea, and if they do better, it means we're screwed, right? No, it's there's going to be many chains that exist. There's each of them have their own different use cases, their own different approaches, their own designs. Different enterprises will value certain things that certain chains bring. One chain might be cheaper, but it might not be as secure versus another one that might be more secure, but it might be a little more expensive. Whatever else it might be. There's no one size fits all approach. Back a while back, someone asked kind of what the difference between Polkadot and Icon was. Scott had a really good explanation for it. I don't have that whole explanation off the top of my head, but it kind of amounted to essentially, Polkadot has this parachain model, and we, Icon has a different model. And again, some projects might value the parachain model, but others might value the Icon model differently. And you also have to factor in too, if Icon's bringing along potentially the Seoul government or the South Korean government, or other kind of enterprise businesses, that itself is going to make Icon potentially a bit more attractive. And, vice versa could be the case for Polkadot. But again, there's no winner take all. It's not that, only one chain can succeed or anything like that. One might be more successful based on price or bigger or whatever it might be at any given point. It might fluctuate over time. There might be some chain we've never ever heard of, or it doesn't even exist at this moment, that ends up, 5 years down the road becomes the king for whatever reason. But again, to sit there and say, any good news for Dot is bad news for Icon or vice versa isn't quite the right way to think of this. And we're going to get to a situation where, each edition, once these chains, as well as many others, once they're fully integrated, it's going to be a situation where it's kind of one big community, and any positive news for Dot is positive for Icon and vice versa. So, we're still ways out from there. We're still early stages, but that's the direction I think I see things going. And so, I do see us as really parts of the Polkadot community now. It's again a little differently than I think people would have expected or believe from a, again, it's not a quote unquote partnership. It's more nuanced than that. But I think the value it brings to Icon and the value it obviously brings to Polkadot is hard to put a number on. But if all goes well, it'll be pretty cool to watch.
Even in that recap, you had to everything revolved around the public chain and all those integrations. You literally had to take a pause and go, oh, by the way, there's still all this stuff that's going on with the private side of it, but we haven't even been talking about it. And it's something you called out last episode, that this is what we'll see start to happen. Now, the BTP on the public side of the chain has created all these possibilities that we might start to forget about the private aspect. Not to say that stuff isn't happening there. It's just, these are conversations and things we can actually see and talk about, not locked away behind closed doors. So, yeah, no, great one, Icongraph, a great rundown. So, look, that's it. I think we've covered off all the news. I'm hoping the breakdown of the BTP announcement and just giving a bit of context around what's in that ecosystem currently and how the Polkadot ecosystem works, along with that narrative shift, has given context, opened some eyes, calmed some nerves around the announcement, if that was the case. But as usual, it is not financial advice. We're not giving financial advice. We're just two guys that love Icon and have a bit of knowledge around the ecosystem and share our thoughts. So please keep that in mind. If you like what you're listening to, please hit the subscribe button, share this around. The more we share this, we need to get new users listening to what is happening on Icon and what is getting built out, and that's the whole purpose of Eye on Icon. As usual, thank you for listening. Icongraph, any closing words?
Nope. I think each episode's getting more and more difficult to do because there's more and more news. So I'm excited to see what this next week brings, and excited to bring it to you all next week.
Agree. Excellent. Look, next show we hope to have Bounty Cat, the marketing DApp that's being built on Icon, on the show, and we can talk through what it is and how it's going to work, and hopefully talk through how Bob could use this particular DApp and give some some examples around it. But until then, thank you for listening. Take care, everyone.